Today we shall see the advantages and limitations of ratio analysis. What are the advantages of ratio analysis? One, advantages. Under this, there are 6 advantages given. One, operational efficiency. Number 2, financial solvency. Number 3, investment decisions. Investment decisions. Investment decisions. Number 4, profitability. Number 5, intra-firm comparison. Number 6, inter-firm comparison. Then, after these advantages, limitations, there are some limitations. This also we are going to see now. This is only means. The second limitation is regarding accuracy. Accuracy depends. Number 3, consistency. This is for comparison. Number 4, no standard norms. Then 5, change in price not considered. These are all the limitations what I am going to teach you now. And before that, I said in other classes, we have seen the 4 types of ratios. Out of those 4 subdivisions, one, the liquidity ratios. Types of ratios. Under which 1, 2, 3, and the fourth type. The first type is the liquidity ratio. Then the second type is long-term solvency. Third type is turnover. The fourth type is the profitability. And under these liquidity ratios, there are two types. One, current ratio. Two, quick ratio. And under solvency, debt equity, proprietary, and the third type is capital gearing ratio. Capital gearing. And regarding the turnover ratios, inventory turnover ratio and the receivable turnover ratio and trade receivable turnover ratio, trade payable turnover ratio, fixed asset turnover ratio. These are all the four types coming under it. That is, the first one is stock turnover ratio or inventory turnover ratio. Stock or inventory. Then the next type, trade receivable. Then trade payable. Then fixed asset turnover ratio. Fixed asset turnover ratio. These are the four types. Under profitability, what are the profitability ratios we have seen? Here, the first one, gross profit ratio, net profit ratio, then cost ratio, what type of cost it is, operating cost ratio, operating profit ratio. Operating cost ratio, operating profit ratio. And the fifth ratio is return on investment ratio, that is the last one. Return on investment, ROI, return on investment ratio. So, here there are two ratios, solvency 3 and turnover 4 and this profitability 5. See, 2, 3, 4, 5. 14 ratios we have seen so far. 14 ratios. And I should remind you one thing. If you know the formula for all these, then you are sure of scoring 1 mark, even if your answer is not correct. If you write the formula correctly, you will be awarded 1 mark. How the questions will be asked? There may be, the question may be like this: calculate the profitability ratios, calculate the turnover ratios, calculate the long-term solvency ratios, calculate the liquidity ratios. The question may be like this generally. Or else instead of asking calculate liquidity ratios, the question may be calculate current ratio and quick ratio. Instead of asking calculate solvency ratios, the question may be very specific. Calculate debt equity ratio, proprietary ratio, capital gearing ratio. Instead of asking calculate turnover ratio, you may be asked to find calculate stock turnover ratio or inventory turnover ratio, calculate trade receivable ratio, calculate trade payable ratio, calculate fixed asset turnover ratio. See, the questions may be separately given or calculate the different turnover ratio. The question may be general. உனக்கு தனித்தனியாக கேட்டாங்கன்னா உனக்கு இந்த ஞாபகம் இல்லைனாலும் you can do it. But if they want to ask the questions differently, how the question will be in the question paper, that is calculate the different types of turnover ratio, calculate the different types of profitability ratios. For that you should remember what are the different types of ratios. That is why I recalled these things. Now to finish the lesson, we shall come to the advantages of ratio analysis and what are the limitations found in ratio analysis. We shall go now one by one. The first thing, we are preparing different types of ratios, and in that, in what way the assets and liabilities are available, in what way, what is the ratio, gross profit ratio, net profit ratio, operating cost ratio, operating profit ratio, and whatever the amount invested, what is the return from it, that is the return on investment. The what investment and from all these things, how far the business is efficient, we can find. Therefore, the operational efficiency can be found out by calculating the different types of ratio analysis. This is one of the advantages. எவ்வளோ லாபம் வருது, என்ன செலவு, டோட்டல்லேருந்து எவ்வளோ ரிட்டர்ன்ஸ் கிடைக்குது. If you know all those things, then we can find the efficiency of the business, efficiency of the management, how the business is operated. All those things we can find. Therefore, this is one of the advantages of ratio analysis. இதெல்லாம் ratio analysis போட்டு பார்த்தா we can find it easily. Okay, then the next one. This is solvency ratio. I have written all these ratios here purposefully. These things will be useful for explaining these points here. That is why I wrote it there. இதெல்லாம் இருந்தால் எனக்கு உங்களுக்கு சொல்லி உங்களுக்கு இது எப்படி, how it is possible அப்படிங்கிறத it will be easy for you, and that is why I have written all types of ratios. Financial solvency. What do you mean by solvency? How much debt is there for the business? What is the liability there? How much is the capital can be geared from the business? All these things. And how much is the loan borrowed for the purpose of running the business? And how it can be settled? And what is the solvency position actually in the business? To know all these things, we have under the ratio analysis, these types of ratios are calculated to know the financial solvency. அதாவது நிதி ஆதாரம் கடனோட எவ்வளவு இருக்கு அப்படின்னு தெரிஞ்சுக்கணும். Only this is possible by calculating this solvency ratio. Then another thing, very important thing is the investment. Any businessman can do, or any businessman can act, and he can achieve anything successfully in the business only if the returns is ideal. If the returns is a considerable one. In simple word, we can say if the profit earned by the concern is a remarkable one. ஒரு நல்ல லாபம் சம்பாதிச்சாலும் முடியும். So in that case, in what way the amount can be invested, and whether the money can be borrowed, or the actual number of shares available in the company is sufficient. That is why we have seen the shareholders fund. In this ratio, we have seen the shareholders fund, the debt equity ratio and the proprietary ratio in this shareholders fund. See what are the different types of shares in the company, whether it is sufficient to run the business, or some more amount should be borrowed from outside or from some other financial institutions. All these things we can assess and we can take some type of decisions for the investment முதலீடு பண்றதுக்கு, and that by calculating this type of ratios. Only if we calculate this type of ratio, we will find what type of decision, or we will come to a conclusion what type of decision we can take for the purpose of business running successfully. Successful business பண்றதுக்கு என்ன மாதிரி decision எடுக்கலாம், that also can be decided from the different types of ratios. And this is actually we know, and what is the gross profit and what is the net profit. I told you what is the operating cost, what is the operating profit, what is the return on investment. All these things we will find from this type of 5 profitability ratios. Say then, I said in the other classes, what is gross profit and what is net profit. So you have purchased some goods for 8 lakhs, you sold it for 10 lakhs, then the profit will be 2 lakhs. Any layman can say, யார் வேணாலும் சும்மா ஒரு நம்பர் தெரிஞ்சவங்க சொல்லலாம். This will not be a person who knows the accountancy. No, not necessary. So, in the case, if the difference between the cost and the revenue is shown, that is the gross profit. வித்தது எவ்வளவு, வாங்கினது எவ்வளவு மைனஸ் பண்ணோம்னா எக்ஸஸ் ஆயிடும், that is called the gross profit. From that gross profit, some amount is spent for advertisement, for salary, for some other expenses, for carriage, cartage. All these things, some amount is spent from the 2 lakh, some 50,000 has been spent. Then you minus that 50,000 also from the 2 lakhs, then 1,50,000 will be the net profit. And all these types of profits, what is the amount of gross profit, what should be the net profit, all these things we will find only from this profitability ratio. That is the profitability we can find. Another, there are 2 terms given. One is intra, other one is inter. What is the meaning of intra and inter? Intra means within. Inter means between. Between 2, we can, or 2 or 3, between. Even we need not use this word, between. Within, suppose there is a mill, got textile industry, there is a textile mill. There may be different sections there. There may be different sections there. Purchase of raw materials, transport sections, sales section, financial section. All these things, there may be different sections. And if the purchase section is compared with the performance of purchase section is compared with that of the sales section, if these 2 sections are compared within the same industry, it is called intra-firm comparison. That is within the business. ஒரே பிசினஸ்ல இருக்கக்கூடிய different departments compare பண்ணா, that is called intra-firm comparison. And for comparing the performances of any 2 wings of the business or any 2 departments of the business, these ratios are very much useful, and that is why this is an important advantage of intra-firm comparison. What about the inter-firm comparison? A businessman can run one textile industry in Coimbatore, other industry may be in Tirupur. Both are textile industries. But if he want to compare the performance of the concern in Coimbatore with that of the concern in Tirupur, they are different, and that is why it is called inter-firm. You might have heard about these things in matches, inter-school match. between two schools. Intra-school match, that is within the school with different batches, with different groups. That is called intra-school match and inter-school match. Intra-school match means within the school among the different groups. That is intra-school match. Inter-school match means match between one school with that of the other school, maybe in the same region or different region. Likewise here, this intra-firm comparison means the departments of the same concern may be compared using these ratios. Using these ratios may be compared. That is intra-firm comparison. How which department is functioning well, which department is giving very good performance in their activities. All those things can be found out by comparing the different departments of the same business using these types of ratios. And just now I said, a company run by the same persons, one in Coimbatore, other one in Tirupur, may be compared. There are two companies, and if those two companies' performances are compared, that is called inter-firm comparison. For that also, we cannot compare by just taking the profit into consideration. You 5 லட்ச ரூபா சம்பாதிச்சா 8 லட்ச ரூபா சம்பாதிச்சா which is better அப்படின்னா 8 லட்ச ரூபா சம்பாதிச்சா better அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட முடியாது. There are various factors that layman can say. Accountancy தெரியாதவங்க சொல்லலாம். That the 5 lakhs is 8 lakhs, but what is the expenses that were incurred for that 5 lakhs and the company and this 8 lakhs and the company, that should be compared. 5 லட்ச ரூபாய்க்கு 2.5 லட்ச ரூபாய் செலவு பண்ணியிருந்தாங்கன்னா இன்னொருத்தவன் வந்து 8 லட்ச ரூபாய்க்கு 4 லட்ச ரூபாய் செலவு பண்ணியிருக்கோம். அப்போ இவன் 3 லட்ச ரூபாய் செலவு பண்ணியிருந்தான்னா which is the better performing company na, that where the expenditure is less, that is the better. அங்கே வந்து 2.5 லட்சம் இங்கே 3 லட்சம், அதனால this 2.5 lakhs is all there. That we cannot say. You understand what I say? A company's income is 5 lakhs. Expenses. First company, income 5 lakhs, but that is spending 2,50,000. The second type of company, income 8 lakhs, but expenses 3 lakhs. Which is better performing company? The expenses only 2,50,000, this is 3. This is better, you may say, but this is wrong. This is the better performing company. Because of the amount, 50% of the amount what the company earned is spent by it in the first case. Whereas in the second case, not half the amount is spent by the company, that is 4 lakhs is not spent by the company, less than that it is spent by the company. Therefore, this is better performing company. So, just by paying the profit earned and the amount spent, we cannot measure. Only by calculating these types of ratios, we will find or we will come to know which one is the better performing company or concern. And for that purpose, it may be compared within the concern itself or between two concerns. And if it is compared within the concern itself, it is inter-firm comparison. If it is compared between two different types of concerns, then it is inter-firm comparison. Okay, just to have this idea. So I hope you are clear now. And therefore, to compare these or to make these comparisons, these type of ratios are useful. Okay, then there are some drawbacks also. And there are 5 limitations or drawbacks given in the book. One is, of course, sir, you said for taking different types of decisions, to find operational efficiency, to find the solvency position of the concern, to find or to take any decision regarding the investment, to know the profitability of the business. For comparison purposes, for all these types of ratios are useful, and therefore is it the final one? No. What they try to say, this is a means way, method. This is one of the ways, this is one of the methods to find or to know the performance of the company. Don't think this is the final one. There may be different types of, but there may be different methods to know the performance. But this is only a method. Therefore, it is only mean. It is not an end. It is the means, one of the means. இது ஒரு வழி அப்படின்னு சொல்றாங்க. Whenever you are finding the ratio, you will, if you are given the data, you will find it. If you are given the data, you will find it. Say for example, what is current ratio, current assets and current liabilities? If current assets are given totally, current liabilities are totally, you will substitute it and find the ratio. If current assets are given separately and the current liabilities are given separately, what you will do? You will find the ratio. Simply you will add and find the total of current assets. You will add and find the total of current liability. You will substitute it in the formula and find it. But the ratio will be a proper one and the correct one if the data are given. If the given data are accurate. Instead of giving 9,900, had they given 8,900 and the amount is substituted and the ratio is found out, then what we can think of it? Since the data given itself is wrong, the ratio will also be wrong. கொடுக்குற amount 9,900 பதிலா 8,900 by mistake கொடுத்துட்டேன்னு வச்சுக்கோ. You can find the ratio, so no problem. But instead of 9,900 with 8,900, if you calculate the ratio, what happens then? The answer or the ratio what you have found out itself will be around 1. So in that case, we cannot say the ratio calculated is accurate. The accuracy depends upon the data available. If the data available is correct, the ratio also will be correct. If the data available is not correct, the ratio also will not be correct. So this accuracy of the ratio depends upon the data, genuineness of the data. So it is a drawback. அதனால நம்ம ரேஷியோ கண்டுபிடிச்சதுனால அது அப்படியே எக்ஸாக்ட்லியா கரெக்டாக சொல்ல முடியாது. ஏன்னா the data available, கொடுத்த data வந்து தப்பா இருந்ததுன்னா the ratio also will be wrong. So this is that. The next one is regarding this comparison. Some idea must be there. For comparison purpose, one textile industry may be compared with the other textile industry. One textile industry may be compared with the iron and steel industry, may be compared, but the genuineness is not very good there. Only same nature of industry can be compared, and for that purpose, what we can do? The consistency we cannot find. The consistency in the sense, the reality, the worthiness of the ratio result, we cannot say it is correct. And of course, to calculate the ratios, definitely there are 14 types of ratios. We have the formula, etc. Right? But is there any rule for it? No standard rules. Only we should follow during this season. Only we should calculate that after 30 days, 1 year. Is there any condition? Whenever you want to do, you can do it. No condition, no standard norms, no standard rules. You should calculate only after some year. after some months, after some days. All these things are given. No, we cannot say so. So, no standard norms, therefore it is also a drawback or limitations. And the last drawback is very, very important. Just now I said, a company earned 50 lakhs, other company earned 8 lakhs. I mean, one company earned 5 lakhs, other company earned 8 lakhs. How it is? How is it possible? See, this 5 lakhs at the time of earning 5 lakhs, 1 kg product will be 500 rupees. And in that case, 1000 kgs. And this second time or third time, at the time of sales, 1 kg may be 800. The same 1000 kgs are sold here. Here also 1000 kgs sold. Here also 1000 kgs sold. And therefore, here what we compare, here the income is 5 lakh, but here income is 8 lakh. So 8 lakh income is greater. No. Did we consider the price, what is there? Did we consider there the quantity? No. Here also 1000 kgs, here also 1000 kgs, and the revenue is here 5 lakhs. Here the revenue is 8 lakhs, but the quantity sold is only 1000. And the price level changes are not considered. We consider only the revenue from operations. What is the revenue from operations? In the first case 5 lakhs, in the second case 8 lakhs we consider. And what is the cost? What is the price level there? We don't consider. And that is why it is also one of the drawbacks. So, under the heading advantages there are 6 points. Under the heading limitations there are 5 points. And you should remember these two. And this may be asked under theory parts. In addition to that, as I told you, you learn all these 14 formulae and each and every category. This, learn the formula and what is the meaning of the numerator and what is the meaning of the denominator. And for these two, you should write the answer in terms of ratio. Say for example, for these two, how you will write for these two, that is 0.5 is to 1 and 0.75 is to 1, 2 is to 1, 3 is to 1, like this we write. And regarding this turnover ratio, how we write for these two, we will write for turnover ratios, we write 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, we write like this. And for regarding the profitability ratios, we use into 100, the result is given in percentages. And you should bear in mind these ideas also. If the question is regarding these two, you should write the answer like this. If the question is regarding the turnover ratios, we should write like this. And if the question is regarding the profitability of the business, the answer should be with percentages involved. So, bear all these things in mind. This is the chapter which is involved very good mathematics calculation. Not I won't say they are all very difficult calculations, but these ratios are involved in mathematical calculations. If you are thorough with it, within a minute, 1 or 2 minutes, you can score 5 marks. Okay, bear it in mind. Try to remember all the formulae. Write the formulae 5 times, 10 times like this when you are free. That will definitely help you to write the formula as soon as when you read the question paper in the examination hall. Thank you.